today about how to build a random forest model using Python. Okay. You might have observed that over the past 2-3 sessions, I have been covering multiple topics in Python, and one reason for this is obviously that it's a tool that is being extensively used by data scientists nowadays, and other reason being that Jagdish is also familiar with this. So if you remember, we had an intern working with us who did an image classification project using Python, and in one of the future sessions, we will explore how that project was done. Okay, but that is a fairly advanced project, and in order for us to make sense of that code and completely understand that image classification, we need to understand the basics of Python first, and therefore that is the reason I have tried to cover different aspects of Python coding in my past few sessions, and one of those is what we will see today as well. Okay, so before we go into the actual coding and all those things, we will just first try to understand what is a random forest. Okay, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this technique of random forest, so I will just give a brief overview of this. So random forest algorithm is a machine learning algorithm used for classification or regression. Okay, it is basically a collection of many decision trees. Decision trees, I'm sure you might be familiar with that technique. So many decision trees put together form a random forest. So that's why they basically call it as a forest collection of trees. Okay. I will go into a bit more detail as to how it actually looks like, but you just note these points for now. So it's a bagging technique as opposed to a boosting technique. Okay, so bagging, another name for bagging is called as bootstrap aggregation. So it basically builds many different classifiers and takes an aggregate out of all those classifiers and comes up with one prediction, which is an aggregate of all the other different individual predictions. Okay, that is what is called as bagging. Boosting is nothing but the model will learn from its past mistakes. Okay, so it's more of an advanced technique where so you would fit a machine learning model onto a data set. Okay, and then it will do a cross validation and see where the model has gone wrong. Okay, and wherever the model has gone wrong, it will apply a higher penalty for that, and in the next iteration it will try to correct that prediction. So that is what is called as boosting, learning from its past mistakes. So that is a boosting. One example of a boosting technique is what you have as extreme gradient boosting. So similar to random forest, which is a bagging technique, you have extreme gradient boosting, which is a boosting technique. Okay, and I told you random forest is a collection of many decision trees, right? So each decision tree here is built using a random subset of features or the input columns that you have in your data. So what does it look like? This is it. So let's say you have a training data set. You have 4 columns: x1, x2, x3, x4, and then y is the dependent variable or the target variable. Okay. Now this is the bootstrapping step that the random forest does. So what it does is it takes many combinations of the variables. Okay, so in the first bootstrapping table, you can see that x1, x3, and x4 are the columns that have been considered. In the next one, you can see that x2, x3, x4 have been considered, and so on. It will consider so many other combinations of columns, and finally you have x1, x2, and y. So like this, it will, in each iteration, it will consider different combinations of your independent variable columns along with the dependent variable, and then for each of these combinations it will build a separate decision tree. Okay, decision tree is fairly simple. So let's say, for example, you have let's say you have electoral rolls data. Okay, and you have to predict each person in the electoral roll for which party he or she is going to vote. Okay, so let's say there are 2 parties, party 1 and party 2. Okay, that will be indicated by the y here. And decision tree is nothing but it will take one variable. So for example, x1 can be something like age. Okay, so is the age of the person less than 50, or if the age of this person is greater than or equal to 50. So this branch, left branch, will be age less than 50, right branch will be age greater than 50. Okay, and this can be something like all the persons who have an age greater than or equal to 50, they vote for party number 2. Okay, so if you take less than 50, Then next variable can be something like a gender. Okay, so gender is male or female. So if the age is less than 50 and the gender is male, they vote for party number 1. If the age is less than 50 and the gender is female, then they vote for party number 2. So this is how the decision tree will be created. So like this, it will take different sets of columns, and for each set it will create a decision tree. And finally, the end prediction will be given by the model. It will be the majority decision. Okay, so let's say we have 3 trees. Okay, so this tree, so for given set of observations, let's say for this example, A1, B1, C1, D1. Okay, so for this particular row, let us say first tree predicts that the person will vote for party number 1. Second tree also predicts person will vote for party number 1. Third tree predicts person will vote for party number 2. Okay, so what is the majority? Majority is the party number 1, right? That is the majority prediction, because that has been predicted by 2 out of the 3 trees. So that majority decision will be given as the final result of the random forest algorithm. Okay, any questions guys on this working mechanism of this random forest? If you want, I can go over it again.
No sir, all clear from this.
Okay, all right. Okay, so how do we do this in Python? So this is the mechanism, but of course doing this manually is practically impossible. So that's why we have software today. And so if we were to do the same thing in Python, what do we do? So not just random forest, but any machine learning algorithm that you want to build, any machine learning model that you want to build in any software, be it R or Python, these are the general steps that you will follow. Okay, so data prep is the first stage, then you have the modeling stage, then you have the review and the fine-tuning stage. Okay, so first step in the process is to load the required libraries. As we have seen in our preceding sessions on Python, that is what we do. And then we load the raw data, which will typically be in the form of a CSV file or Excel file or any data frame. And we just clean that raw data. We remove the blank values, we remove the outliers. So we do all those processes, and then we create the dummies for the categorical variables. Okay, if you remember, a few weeks back I took a session on how to do linear regression using Excel, and there we had a situation where a particular product was purchased from North America or Europe or Latin America. Okay, and if you remember, for each of those continents we created a dummy variable, which basically said whether if the product has been purchased from North America, then the column value will be 1, otherwise it will be 0. Similarly, if the product has been purchased from Latin America, then the Latin America column will be 1, otherwise it will be 0. So that is what you call as a dummy variable. So you create these dummies for the categorical variables in the data, and then after that you separate the dependent and the, sorry, I spelled dependent wrongly. You separate the dependent and the independent variable. So this is, if you're working with R, you don't have to do this. You can have everything in a single data frame, and in your random forest function, you can specify which is the independent and which is the dependent variable. Here, we are doing it in a slightly different manner. We are first separating them into 2 different arrays, and then we will separate that further into training and testing data sets. And we build the model on the training data, apply the model on the testing data, and we measure the accuracy. And based on the accuracy, if you want to improve the accuracy, then we do more feature engineering, and we go back to the previous steps. So again, you create more features. If necessary, you create dummy variables, separate this, apply the model, do all those things, repeat the entire cycle. Okay, now let's look at the code. So this is how the code looks like. Okay, so again, first step will be to import the necessary libraries that we will be using in our code. So the first 4 segments of code until, let's say, line number 16 are the different libraries that we will be using to build the random forest model. First will be the library for data frame operations, which is our regular pandas library that we have been using for a while now. And then next is, in one of the steps, we have to convert the numbers into an array format. So here you see we have used the word data frame, for which we have loaded this pandas library, right? Data frame is one particular type of data that is available in Python. The other type of data is an array. So for perform this particular step, right, we separate the dependent and independent variables, separate into training and testing sets, and then build the model on that training data, apply it on the test data. So for these steps here, it is best if or the way the Python random forest function is configured is it will take the data in the form of arrays. So in order to convert the data frame type into an array type, we import this particular library called as NumPy, and this is an alias which you use, NumPy as np, so that you can reference the functions easily. And then you import this particular library called as scikit-learn. Okay, with this basically helps you split the data set into training and testing sets. And so this is the library, sklearn.model-selection, and you import this. It's enough if you just import this particular package, train test split. That is the only thing that we'll be using. So you import this, and then same scikit-learn library, we import the random forest regressor. So this package will actually contain the random forest function that we will be using to build our model. So similar to pandas and NumPy, scikit-learn is another library in Python which is used for performing machine learning tasks. Okay. And then here line number 19 is where we load the raw data file into Python. Let me just run these lines one by one. I will just load the libraries first, and then so now I have written the data frame, the raw data frame. Let's see what that looks like. So this is nothing but this is a very, very simple data set that I have taken for the purpose of illustrating this random forest technique. So first column that you have is the weekday of the week. Okay, so the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like that. Okay, and the subsequent columns are the temperatures record. So this data is basically temperatures in the city of Seattle in the US. Okay, so this column that you see, right, 45, this actual, so that is the actual temperature recorded on this day, Friday. So this Friday might correspond to a particular day, so let's say it could be 29th of January 2021, something like that. For the sake of clarity, I have removed those date columns because we are not going to do anything with that date column. So I just removed those columns. I just kept the weekday here. Now so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that is the weekday that you have. This was the temperature in Fahrenheit recorded on that particular day. And temp_2 is nothing but what was the temperature recorded in that place 2 days prior to this particular Friday. Okay, temp_1 is what was the temperature recorded 1 day prior to this particular Friday. And average is historical average. So let's say Friday is 29th of January, right? So 29th of January, for all the years, what was the average temperature recorded on the 29th of January? So that is what is given by this average column. That is the historical average temperature. So that is what this data set looks like. So we have 5 columns and 348 rows. Okay, so we have written that data file, and columns and their distributions is nothing but we will just see. So before doing any machine learning algorithm, we will have to check whether there are any outliers in the data and what's the distribution of each data set. Okay, so for that we have this function in Python which is called as describe. Okay, so we are just describing this data set, this raw data which we just written from the CSV file, and we are storing the description in this separate data set which is called as data_description. So I will run this line. So you get one more object. Let's see what that looks like. See, so this data set has 5 columns, but one column is the categorical data, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that data. I mean, there is no, the distribution will not be displayed for that categorical or text data, but for the numerical columns, this will be shown. So for each of the numerical columns, count is nothing but the number of rows or the number of non-null values to be precise, and average, standard deviation, minimum, 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile, and what is the maximum value of that column. Okay, another way to look at this is to look at it visually. So last week, if you remember, Swap showed us something called as a box plot, right? So we can do a similar box plot in Python, and this is the function that you use. You use this function called box plot on this raw data set. And for what columns do you require the box plot? I need it for all the 4 numerical columns in our data set. Temp2, temp1, average, and actual. So you specify whichever columns you need the box plot for. So you see here, now we have got all the 4 box plot for each of the columns. Okay. Now, if you remember this, so this is actually called as a box whisker plot. This will show the minimum, this will show the maximum, and this is the 25th percentile, 50th percentile, and the 75th percentile. Okay. Now, anything that you see on the box plot which lies outside of this particular box whisker, right? So that those are basically outliers in the data. All right. So typically people ask you, right, when do you use a box plot? This is when you use it. You use it to look at distributions and identify outliers. So this has provided us with a quick visual cue saying, hey, for this temp2 and temp1 variables, we have 2 outliers. So one for the temp2 variable, which is around because most of your data lies below, I would say, 90, right, temperature, but for just one data point here and one data point here, the temperature is very close to 120. Okay, so what I will do now is I will just remove those 2 outliers from the data. Okay, so right now if you see, our data set has 348 rows. So I will just remove those outliers. I will just restrict my data set to where the temperature of 2 days prior and 1 day prior is less than or equal to 100. So I'm using this AND condition specifying temp2 is less than or equal to 100, temp1 is less than or equal to 100. So I'll just have those locations in the data without the outliers. So when I run this line, you can observe the 348 rows has become 346 rows. So basically these 2 values have been removed from our data set. So that is why we have 346 rows now. Next step is to one hot encode the data, which is nothing but creating the binary variables for these values. So Friday will be a separate column, and if this first row is Friday, then that column will be 1, and the remaining column Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so those should be 0. Okay, so you don't have to write any if condition or do something like that. In Python, we have a ready-made function called as get dummies, which is available in the pandas library. So I'm just applying this dummies onto this data set. It will automatically take all the text-based columns from this data set, and it will create dummy variables for them. So the moment I run this, you see that 5 columns has become 11 columns. Okay, so out of the 5 columns, 1 column was the weekday column, right? So that column would have been removed now, and so it has become 4 plus 7, 1 each for each day of the week. Okay, so you can see that. See, so there is 1 column for Friday, 1 column for Monday. So yeah, 1 column for Saturday, 1 column for Sunday, like that. So we have the dummy variables for each categorical value. One important thing to note here is one of the dummy variable columns should be dropped. Okay, otherwise we get a function called we get a condition called as multi-collinearity. So or they call it as a dummy variable trap. So for example, let's say you have 2 values in the dummy. So let's say you have a column called as gender. It will have only 2 values, male and female, right? And you create just 1 column for male, which will take a value of 1 if the gender is male, otherwise it will take 0. Okay, you don't have 1 more column for female. Okay, so you just create, so if there are n values of the dummy variable, then you create n minus 1 columns. So I will just drop this particular column, Sunday indicator, I will just drop from my data set. All right, to prevent this multi-collinearity. And then we take the labels separately. Labels are nothing but the values that we want to predict. So labels is the actual temperature recorded on that day. So that is what we need to predict, right? Given that previous day's temperature was this much and day before yesterday temperature was this much, what would be the temperature today. So that is what we need to predict, and that is the target variable, this actual. So I will just put this target variable in a separate array. So that is why I'm using this function np.array, and I will put this as a separate array called labels. So I'll press F9. See, now we have an integer array which has 346 rows like our raw data frame, but it will just have the target variable values alone. So you can just compare this with the value here. So this actual, right, 45, 44, 41, 40, that is what we have it here separately. Okay. And yeah, so once we do that, we also take the features separately. Features are nothing but the set of independent variables that you have. Okay, so features are nothing but you take the same data set, all the columns apart from this actual column or the dependent or the the independent or the predictor variables. So I will just drop this particular dependent variable column from my data frame, and the remaining all that I have will be the predictor variables. So I will just say drop the column called as actual. Okay, so if you see here, this now has 10 columns. When I drop the actual column, this becomes, column count here becomes 9. So this will no longer have the target variable column. It will have only the predictor variables. Now we just save the feature names separately so that it will be easier for us to pass this into the random forest function. Feature list is nothing but all the columns that we have in the data frame now after dropping this actual. So I will just make a list of the feature names. So when I do this, you see what happens, we get one more object here, which is nothing but all the column names, temp2, temp1 average, one dummy variable for each day of the week except Sunday. That is what we have. And then we convert. So I told you, right, the way the random forest works is it will take in the data in the form of an array. So for that we are converting this data frame. So right now it says data frame over here on the right. When I apply this function np.array, it will be converted into an array. See, when I do this, now it says array of float 64. Okay, and float is nothing but floating point, which is the data type of the variable. And then we split the data set into training data set and the test data set. Okay, so we have 4 parameters here. So train features and test features is nothing but the columns that you will have in your training data and the columns that you will have in your test data. And labels are the actual the dependent variable values. So because random forest is a supervised learning technique, right? So supervised learning technique means you will already have the variables in your data. That is what you will use to train the model on. So you have labels in the training set, you have labels in the test set. This test set label is what you will use to measure the accuracy of your model. So for that, to get these 4 parameters, what you do is you use this function, train test split from that scikit-learn library. You just use this function, and you apply this function on this raw data set. You specify what are your labels, and you also specify the size of the test data. So right now we are saying please put 25% of the observations into the testing data, remaining 75% will be into the training data. So it will just do a random sampling and make this 25-75 split. Okay, so when I run this line, it will have features and the labels for the training and the test sets. So we have 4 new data sets. So test features or the test labels, which contain 87 rows, and the remaining 259 rows are the training data. Okay, so right now I'm not building 10,000 decision trees. I'm just, since this is a very small data set, let us just build some 10 decision trees and see what it looks like. So I'm using this function, random forest regressor, same from that scikit-learn library. I'm saying please build 10 trees. That is what we have here, and I'm storing this random forest model in a separate variable called RF. So I'm running this line, and so see, now we have built the or I would say we have configured the model. Now I will just fit this model on the training data, or I will train this model on the training data. So we have train features, train labels. So we'll just train it, and once I train the model, I will apply this model onto the test data. So when I say apply, what do I mean? I'm using the same model so I am passing the test data into this model, and I'm predicting the target variable values, right? So predictions, I'm creating a new variable called as predictions, and I'm predicting using this RF model. So rf.predict, but I'm predicting on the test data. Test features will be the input. So I've done the predictions now. Now let us calculate the absolute error. So absolute error is nothing but the prediction minus the actual predicted value minus actual value. But we need the absolute error. We don't want the positive or the negative sign. So this absolute value will just give you the value without the sign. Okay, so we are using this absolute function. So now we have got the errors. So you see, so for each observation for which the prediction has been made, so this will have the number of rows as per the testing data. See, it has 87 rows as per the testing data. This one. Okay, so now we have the errors, and we are calculating this metric called as MAE, which is nothing but mean absolute error. Okay, so I'm just issuing a print statement, and what it will print, it will print this heading, mean absolute error, which is nothing but the mean of the errors that we have in the previous step. It will just round off this value to 2 decimal places, and it will suffix this value with the word degrees. Let's see what it looks like. See, mean absolute error 4.33 degrees. So it has rounded off this value to 2 decimal places, and it has printed this header, and it has suffixed this value with the word called as degrees. So this is the mean absolute error. And then you have some one more metric called as the mean absolute percentage error. So that is nothing but percentage error is nothing but your error value by the actual value, that is predicted minus actual divided by actual, right? So error is predicted minus actual divided by actual. So that is the error. You are just multiplying it by 100 to display it as a percentage. So we are saying APE, or absolute percentage error, and accuracy is nothing but 100% minus your error percentage. Okay, and by here error here, what we mean is the absolute percentage or the mean absolute percentage error, right? Which is the mean of all the individual percentage errors that you have. So 100 minus mean of this absolute percentage error. So mean of absolute percentage error is what is called as MAPE in data science terminology. That is, so accuracy is 100 minus MAPE, and let's see what the accuracy is. So right now the accuracy that we have is 93.32%. Now of course this is a very, very simple data set that we saw here. So it has only 348 rows, and random forest might be an overkill for this kind of a data. All right, but in reality, when you're actually working on large scale machine learning projects, even if you get an accuracy of, let's say, 70 to 80%, it is very, very decent. Okay, and believe me, it is very, very difficult to go beyond that 80% threshold when you're working with the real-time data. All right, but here, since we are using sort of a hobbyist data set, just to demonstrate how to do random forest using Python, we are getting this value 93% as the accuracy. So yeah, so this is basically the set of code that you will use to create a random forest model. I will also send you this code and this data set that I have, so that in the future, when you are encountered with a situation where you have to build a random forest model, you can just use this code. You can plug in your data set, you can plug in your column names, and it will be easy for you to build the model. So that is what I had for today.